Yeah.
So I can trust a Javier Milei personality to lead my country, but I cannot trust a Trump personality to lead my
But Trump
country.
has also been in like the business world for like decades, almost 2 decades. He's a billionaire. So we need to say like at least there's some level of traction that he has. Some people say that he went bankrupt 6 times and all of that. At the end of the day, he's still one of the most successful people the United States has ever.
There is now a lot of growth of this right-wing politics.
Yeah,
people are angry that they are being replaced.
The great perspective.
They are angry that they are being replaced by non-whites.
Yeah.
No, they don't want that.
Biden has deported more people than Donald Trump.
Interesting.
And Biden never spoke about
I never spoke about it. For Javier Milei, he brought out a chainsaw. He said he was going to cut down heads. I remember there was a particular video where he had stickers of names of ministries and he was ripping them out from the wall.
Ministerio de Cultura, afuera. Ministerio de Ambiente y Desarrollo Sostenible, afuera. Ministerio de las Mujeres y Género y Diversidad, afuera.
Peter Obi, basically, would you categorize him as like a populist political candidate, or will you categorize him as someone that's like a part of the elites?
He kind of fit the vibe, but it's not lost on me that he's from the establishment.
Hi everyone, welcome once again to another episode of Agora. I'm sure you missed us, but we are back again with another exciting topic. This one is a bit more contemporary, so I guess more and more people will be able to relate better. So today we're talking about Trump, Milei, Peter Obi, and the rise of modern populism, right? So I'm sure you've heard the term populism, populist, something like that. Like, what exactly is populism and why exactly is it gaining so much traction in today's society, right? So we may have two of the best set of people that we can discuss this sort of exciting and culturally important topic. So to my right, I have Adeniji.
Yeah, good afternoon everyone. Nice to be here on my Agora platform.
Yeah, it's good to have you, Adeniji. Adeniji is very vast in Nigerian political atmosphere and also in geopolitics. Yeah, so he
I won't say vast, but
yeah, so he regularly comments on topics regarding Nigeria and also regarding like global geopolitics generally, and he has very interesting insights, and I'm sure you do well to really pay attention to what he has to say. Also to my left, I have one who has become quite a regular face here as well. I have Emmanuel.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yeah, it's good to have you, Emmanuel.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me once again.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so Emmanuel is a co-host of the Perspective podcast, and the other time we had both him and Semeton, and it was a firestorm here. So, but today we'll try to keep everything a bit calm and also have like a very engaging discussion, right? So, like I said earlier, we're talking about Trump, Milei, and Peter Obi, and the rise of modern populism. You'll be wondering like why exactly are we categorizing those three individuals? Well, Trump is like one of the would I say the face, rather, of modern populism, particularly when it comes to Western democracies. And also when we talk about like South America, one of the prominent populists that we know of is, Javier Milei. And when it comes to Nigeria, we also have an interesting figure who is also starting to rise up as like a form of populist. Some say he's a populist, some say he's not a populist, but we are here to find out, right? So that's Peter Obi in the African continent, particularly in Nigeria. So what is examine these figures, find out why populism is gaining so much traction in today's society. It used to be something that existed like I think like the earlier periods of American democracy, like around the 17th or 18th century thereabout, and also even further in history. But it seems to be gaining traction nowadays, and so we try to examine it and also find out the implications, right, for modern society. Right, so I'd like to start with you, Manuel. Yeah, we always, you're kind of like much more comfortable now, I believe, right?
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, you couldn't say otherwise. Right. So, but when you think about the topic like populism or the word populism, what exactly comes to your mind? What is populism to you?
I think Andrei Papandreou's definition of populism best explains it. He said institutions do not exist, only the will of the people. And that's what populism tries to do to, propagate the interests of the people above any form of institutions that exist. And some of those institutions exist because we moved away from a totalitarian system of government, mostly after World War II, to one that safeguarded the rights of individuals and of groups of people, particularly even minorities, to ensure that they were codified in statutes and constitutions. And that's why we have liberal democracies that ensure that even though we have different views, we can still find common ground. And they are backed by the rule of law to ensure that nobody is above one or the other. But the issues that we have is that sometimes those institutions, because of time, some of them become, in the hands of a few people that we call the elites. And sometimes it seems that those institutions only serve their own interests.
Yeah.
And we sometimes forget that they also serve the interests of general populace. But because the elites are at the forefront of those institutions and are in the government space, it seems like, they do not serve the interests of the common people. The common people feel left out. And then it brings rise to other people saying that, I can actually save you from this. And in doing so, they try to dismantle those institutions and say, okay, it's only the will of the people. But that ultimately doesn't work out well.
Okay. Have you ever experienced a situation where, or is there like a recorded history, historical event where the systems or like a populist arose and then the systems were destroyed and it led to
the example I gave, Greece, Papandreou tried to do that. Before Papandreou's rise, they had tried to, join the EU, join NATO and all those stuff. So when he came, it was all about, we need to leave this, we need to leave that. And we have Brexit as an example to show of how, that was a populist agenda too.
Yeah.
A lot of the populist agenda ties directly to nationalism, and that's why we have Trump as one of the proponents of populism.
Yeah. Although some people say there's right-wing populism, there's left-wing populism. They call Donald Trump a right-wing populist, and there's someone like Bernie Sanders a left-wing populist.
Yes, I think the term is all-encompassing because of in his basic form, it's just about elevating the will of the people.
Yeah.
But where it starts to get tricky is when people are saying, we need to dismantle. Whenever someone says the institutions are this, creating a narrative, criticizing news media, criticizing this person, the courts are bad.
Yeah.
We need to defund the education and the education ministry. So when there's that kind of rhetoric, is where I'm kind of fearful of what the outcomes might be, because those institutions safeguard the interest of common people.
Well, we'll try to dive more deep into that. Well, because some people debate that actually those institutions have metamorphosed from what they were supposed to do to now, rather than safeguarding the interest of the people.
Yes.
They are now more playing to the gallery of trying to safeguard the interest of people, while instead behind the scenes they are funding the luxurious lives of some what they call elites.
Yeah, that may be true, and I think I'm going to talk about that when we talk about why populism is on the rise. Now, why I do not agree is that populism asks the right questions, but it doesn't give ready-made answers. So the question would be, what is going to be the alternative?
Yeah.
Because when you nature abhors a vacuum.
Yeah.
When you destroy a certain system, something else is going to replace it. So my thinking is that if you replace that system and create a better one, at the end of the day, aren't we going to have even worse people in hopes of creating a better system?
Okay. Yeah. So that's quite insightful. But let me just bring it back to Adeniji. Sorry that we kind of left you in the cold there. So he just gave his own perspective of what populism is about. But for you exactly, when you hear the word populism, what exactly comes to your mind? What is populism to you?
Populism to me is an ideology where the baseline message is an us versus them. And since humans have been able to form governments to gather themselves together and appoint leaders that will lead them, there have been the idea that when we do this, the government should work for the people. But along the way, there may be strays, they may stray from the path, and then people in power, the leaders, supposed leaders, they use these government functions to gain more power, to gain more resources, and they hold on to themselves, and they become powerful elites.
Yeah.
And this eventually brings rise to, feelings in the people that this government is not working for us, and we have to take power back. And there have been various movements since the time of the American Revolution to the French Revolution. They all have populist agendas, but technically they are not populist. They're not populist. But technically they still have a populist agenda because they are trying to fight power, to get power back
From
to the
elites, to the
from
people.
elites back to the people. Yeah, so that's basically what I think.
I think sometimes I tend to look at populism and I'm like, it's supposed to be like the cornerstone of what democracy is about, right? Democracy is like gotten from two words, demo and kratos, like power to the people.
Yeah.
So populism also is pretty much emphasizing that rhetoric of what actual democracy is supposed to be like. There has to be power back to the people, right? So, and maybe this will lead to like the examination of why populist trends are starting to happen all over the world, right?
And I think I want to mention something about it that, like, yes, populism is also a part of democracy. It's not illegal, like it's an actual, because democracy is the one that like allows even for populist movement to happen. In other forms of government, they have to take it by force. Like we saw in the French Revolution, in the American, like they actually need to fight. But in democracy, you can have it. The only difference between populism and core liberal democracy is in the institutions. And I think I've mentioned it over and over again. Because institutions means that like you are codifying things into law, and you are saying that, for example, liberal democracy has three tenets. One, that like we all have different views. And sometimes those different views can cause us to have conflict. It's normal, like that's always happened in human history. And the second is that even though we have different views, we need to find common ground. So like A has to speak to B has to speak to C, everybody has to find a common ground. The third one is the rule of law. So now, any person or any group that tries to undermine any of those things is creating a faulty foundation even for the future. Because even sometimes those populist leaders might not even go as extreme as they say. Like someone can say, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. They might not do it, but the distrust that they create
to the
system creates further problems in the future. To the point where people don't even know how to even come together and align for a common good. And then we have people on the left and on the right, but we need to meet more in the middle.
Right. That's insightful. So although what people say regarding what you just mentioned, regarding like populist agenda that are driven towards like anti-system rhetorics or anti-system ideology, people say like maybe these systems idealistically they are supposed to cater to the needs of the people.
Yes.
But those systems have somewhat been abused, right? Maybe by elites over periods of time. They have become like dogmatic, such that they are now even impeding, rather than helping or enabling the needs or the welfare of the people.
Yes.
So in that kind of situation or that kind of dynamic, wouldn't you like advocate for like a shutdown of this kind of systems?
I wouldn't advocate for a shutdown of the system. Like I think now we're already moving towards to why there is an increase. Now one of the reasons why there's an increase is because as we've seen in a lot of governments for in most places, not just in Africa, like you're having issues of corruption, of politicians not being honest. So people are being distrustful of their leaders, of the political system. And there's just this lack of faith that, okay, this person that is leading us actually knows what he's doing and he has our best interest at heart. So people are having those feelings. So they're looking at those other people coming and saying, oh, I have your interest at heart. And who maybe by their, their rhetoric, by the way they've probably done their countenance, or maybe how they've acted before, seem to be better people. And so that's why they are actually gaining ground.
So I want to add to that. The thing, what causes the rise of populism, and especially when you talk about institution, is the function of the government is mainly three things, technically: to provide security to the people, to provide welfare to the people, and to enforce the rule of law. That is what the government is for. But when any of these three tenets are not being enforced properly and they are being used, some elites can scare the rule of law. Laws are not applied equally to everyone. Someone may be, for instance, looking in our own political climate in Nigeria.
Yeah.
When a politician, especially ex-governors, they have corruption cases, the cases drag for so long.
Yeah.
There's
Yes.
abuse of court processes.
Yeah.
The investigations are shoddy.
Yeah.
Eventually, the corporate or the governors or whoever it is, a political leader, ends up paying small fines.
Just a
Yeah.
fraction of the
Some of
amount.
them don't even go to prison, and those things send signals to the common
Sometimes they go to prison and they come back and
and they
join the
come out
Senate.
and get back the presidential pardon.
Yeah,
Like in
yeah,
recent case under the Buhari administration, there were I
Yeah.
think a northern governor, I got the presidential pardon.
Yeah.
So those things send signals to the people that these governments are not for. There's a separate government.
Yeah.
There's
One
government
for the people and one for the
there's a
elites.
special government for the elites.
For the elites. Yeah.
When outsiders whether people look into people that are outside non-government people, workers
Yeah.
or politicians, they look into this and they say, okay, they can use this grievance, this people's grievance, and use it to rise to power.
Yeah.
They stoke people's anger and use that influence to rise to power. They bring up maddening rhetorics.
Yeah. Yeah.
These people are not for us.
Yeah.
They are not working for us.
Yeah.
Government is not for us. There are some sections, they are technically against us. Let us take power back.
So, but we say that is wrong. Like trying to fight against those systems that have become dogmatic. Is that wrong?
It's not wrong. It's not wrong.
Yeah. So technically, populism is on the right side, trying to fight against those dogmatic systems.
Yes.
But you seem to be like, now they seem to be like against.
No, I'm reserved.
All right.
I'm reserved in the sense that, like, when, especially, humans have a tendency to extremes. Like, we say we are fighting against dogmatic system, fighting against inequality, fighting against abuse of power.
Yeah.
But then, when you have a candidate that becomes probably the president, and this person does not have the right fundamentals, and we're going to talk about one of them, Javier Milei was an economist. He has the right fundamentals.
Yeah.
So I can trust a Javier Milei personality to lead my country. But I cannot trust a Trump personality to lead my
But Trump
country.
has also been in like the business world for like decades, almost 2 decades. He's a billionaire. He has grown the assets that his father left under his care. So we need to say like at least there's some level of traction that he has. Some people say that he went bankrupt 6 times and all of that. But I think like
I didn't
he's
even know that.
Yeah, he went bankrupt like 6 times. But he's still like at the end of the day, he's still one of the most successful people the United States have ever produced.
Well, yes, true. Why I mentioned Javier Milei is that, like, as I mentioned, he's an economist. So when he speaks about the economy and speaks about things that need to happen, I can say that, oh, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But when somebody that doesn't really know that much about the economy starts like whipping up, like, for example, Trump has been speaking about the Panama Canal, speaking about how they want to annex Greenland, speaking about Mexico, and, like, I'm kind of looking at, I'm like, you shouldn't be doing all this. Like, if he gets into power, he might not do a quarter of what he's talking about here.
Yeah.
But just the fact that, like, he's creating the avenue for that
Sentiments.
creates a gap for somebody in the future to actually do all those things.
Yeah.
So that's my problem.
The thing with populism also is it starts out as a good intention, technically, but there's a thin line when you ride that populistic wave into authoritarianism.
True.
When you have the message of an us versus them, you have the elites on one end and you have the people on one end, and you hand over power to someone, and this person fights on behalf of the people. The people are a mob. They want to see this elite hot. and I would say we have these, as humans, we have these basic instincts to see people pay for their crimes.
Yes,
their
justice.
perceived crimes. Some people, in fact, majority don't even care about the rule of law unless they are strong institutions.
Yeah.
If there are no strong institutions, populist governments, when they get into power, they also eventually become the elites.
Yeah.
And then they use this power for
suppress,
themselves.
yeah.
So
and
imagine they
oppress.
had dismantled those institutions. So what guardrails are there to stop
Exactly.
them
So now-
from going
Yeah,
overboard?
but then the issue or the dilemma is how then can you address those systems other than a populist sort of like intervention, right? Because those systems have been there for decades, for years. They have become dogma. They have become like the way of life.
Yeah.
Like especially you look at Nigeria, for example, like the way corruption has been normalized within the political sphere. It takes someone from the outside that is willing to, like Javier Milei would say, use a chainsaw to cut it from the roots. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to find like the balance between, like you said, like Marty said, trying to avoid the extremes, but also trying to be radical enough to actually have an impact, because it requires some level of radicalism.
Yes, it does. But I would say that like a way I think populism can work is when, even though the movement has this, we need to dismantle all the institutions should not be touched. You might replace certain people. You can't replace all of them. It's not possible. Like Trump has appointed Elon Musk and Vivek to dodge.
Yeah.
Let's see what they are going to do. It's difficult. So sometimes like you create problems for yourself unintentionally. You can replace certain top people, but trying to like dismantle the whole system, you're going to leave your successor even bigger problems that you met. So to be a point of like, what did Trump even do? So my point is like, you are a populist candidate. We know that you can make your reforms without dismantling all the systems. So leave the systems that guarantee individual rights, that guarantee that everybody can come together towards a shared purpose. Now you can always. Trump showed us that you can always change judges.
Yeah.
During his term, he changed more judges than most other presidents did during their own maybe 80th and all.
Yeah.
You can change the judges, like you've not dismantled the court system. The court system is still running, but you change the people involved. So you can see like how you can do some of those things. So I'm against totally scrapping, or like say for example the educational sector they're talking about. How would you say you are going to totally scrap out education and as a secretarial position? That doesn't sound right to me personally. So it just shows me that like you're an extremist.
But and when populist governments come into play, they usually ride on charismatic individuals.
Yes.
Yeah.
That have very simple message.
Yeah.
For Donald Trump, when he came in 2016,
MAGA.
which was Make America Great Again
Yeah.
and Drain the Swamp.
Yeah.
Very simple. For Javier Milei, he brought out a chainsaw. Said he was going to cut down everything. I remember there was a particular video where he had stickers of names of ministries, and he was ripping them out from the board. Ministry of Gender Diversity, so out. Ministry of Education, out. I think it was saying afuera. It's not right. Out.
Bueno, lo primero que tenemos que entender es que el Estado no es la solución. El Estado es el problema. Ustedes, si se fijan acá, tienen la gran raviolada que es el Estado, el gran curro y la fuente de la decadencia argentina, que es el Estado. Esta es la foto del Estado que tenemos hoy. Ministerio de Turismo y Deporte, afuera. Ministerio de Cultura, afuera. Ministerio de Ambiente y Desarrollo Sostenible, afuera. Ministerio de las Mujeres y Género y Diversidad, afuera. Ministerio de Obras Públicas, afuera. Aunque te resistas. Vamos a seguir por acá. Ministerio de Ciencia y Tecnología e Innovación. Algo bien del sector privado. Nada bueno salió del sector público. ¡Afuera! Ministerio de Trabajo, Empleo y Seguridad Social. ¡Afuera! Ministerio de Educación. Adoctrinamiento. ¡Afuera! Ministerio de Transporte. ¡Afuera! Ministerio de Salud. ¡Afuera! Ministerio de Desarrollo Social. ¡Afuera! ¿Cómo queda el Estado? Ministerio de Capital Humano, Ministerio de Infraestructura, Ministerio de Economía, Ministerio de Justicia, Ministerio de Seguridad, Ministerio de Defensa, Ministerio de Relaciones Exteriores y Ministerio del Interior. Se acabó el curro de la política. ¡Viva la libertad, carajo!
For Boris Johnson,
Yeah.
when he was advocating for the Brexit, he wanted an out. Said the British people were not getting a fair deal while remaining in the EU. They need to stand on their own.
Yeah.
And got majority of the votes.
Yeah.
Peter Obi also has a similar message. He's saying that the government is wasteful.
Yes.
They are not taking care of the people. They are spending anyhow, and our path to production is fraught with so many inefficiencies. He said, according to him,
from consumption to production.
Consumption to production.
Yeah,
that was his main message.
What I've come to plead with Nigeria, and what I'm saying to Nigeria, I have a simple thing that I'm requesting. My job and what I want to do is to take Nigeria from consumption to production.
So when you have those simple ideas, yes, it sounds simple, they sound doable.
Yeah.
But when you get into power and get into government, government has a lot of bureaucracies.
Yeah.
Your ideas cannot simply translate to
Action.
action immediately.
Yeah.
You have to have, technically, you want to break down some institution.
Yeah.
But to translate your idea to something that works, you have to also build institutions. There are technical frameworks that you need to put into play. You cannot do things haphazardly. You have to do things by the rule of law.
I get what
you have to strengthen some government institutions, maybe not all, the ones that you need to effect your plan and whatever your policies.
Yeah.
You have to strengthen them. You have to put in technical. These things are
Very true, very
technical.
true.
And I have to add something to what he said. Strengthening institutions. For example, when Javier Milei was contesting for presidency, one of the issues with Argentina was they had high inflation, they had very bad fiscal deficits.
Yeah.
And let me just give you statistics. Like at the time he was becoming president, they were owing IMF $40 billion.
Yeah.
And they had just $3 billion in foreign reserves. So that was the situation. So now he's a populist candidate and he's an economist.
Negative 3 billion.
Negative 3 billion.
Yeah.
So now, if he came into power, so as an economist, he was able to, stem some of those things, cut excessive government spending, merge some government departments, and then sign deals. Although when he was contesting, he was making rhetorics against China, but he had to sign a deal with China for currency swaps to reduce the pressure of them like getting foreign exchange. Like he's in talks with the OECD to join, and then the group, South American group, they have something like ECOWAS, so they're planning to have these major trade conversations with the EU. So he's doing all of those things, and they seem to be working. But now, imagine if he came and he just started like scratching everything. So another thing that he did was to strengthen their central bank to ensure that like he could not just come and just ask them to print money, because that's what Buhari did in Nigeria. So like building stronger institutions actually builds countries instead of dismantling them.
Yeah. So I think the comprehensive message you guys are passing is that sometimes the populist framework or framing of their message may be too simplistic.
Yes.
Right. But then when it comes to actually doing it
Yeah.
in reality, it tends to be much more comprehensive, much more broader, much more technical.
Much more complicated than people realize.
Yeah. But then when they get there,
Yeah, I think that was actually true, because I want us to even pivot to like Donald Trump now, right? In the sense that in his first term, he made a lot of statements that he was going to do. He said he was going to ban radical Islamic terrorists from coming to the country. He's going to build a wall. Mexico will pay for it. He's going to, deport and all those other things, right? But then when he eventually got into power, some people like Agora, for example, were like, he was not as radical when it came to like actually doing the work in implementation as his statements were.
yes.
Unlike someone like Ron DeSantis that was maybe not so charming or as expressive as Donald Trump, or when you
Was
look at
more radical in his actions.
yeah, exactly. When you look at Ron DeSantis' policies in Florida
Yeah.
and with Donald Trump's policies, Ron DeSantis was like much more right
It was
wing.
like the devil.
Yeah, extreme right wing, if you want to call it that. Right.
Now,
Like
let me
Trump.
just add one
So,
stat to what you're
I
saying.
think, yeah.
Biden has deported more people than Donald Trump.
Interesting.
And Biden never spoke about
I
it.
never spoke about it.
I'll have
In
to.
fact, he wants more people to come in.
Interesting. I have to check that because that's busting my head right now. But I know that Obama, is the highest deporter
Yes.
in history. Right. So yeah, I think you guys are right in the sense that they try to make their message very simplistic, but
Yeah.
in actual practicality is not
It's not as simple as they paint it
straightforward
to
as
be.
that. Yeah. So, but then in this coming Donald Trump's second tenure, there are a lot of like postulations of what he's going to do, like in terms of geopolitics with like Russia, Ukraine war. I think just not too long ago, Ukraine was firing rockets into Russia. Russia just mistakenly, shut
Shut
down. And Azerbaijan was it?
Yes.
Yeah, an Azerbaijan plane, because they thought it was an Ukrainian fighter jet or something. So what is it going to do with like the Ukraine-Russia war? Just like in summary points, what do you think is going to happen like in terms of geopolitics, Ukraine-Russia war, Israel-Hamas conflict, right? And with China as well, right?
Yeah.
And handling with China. It's talking about tariffs.
Then migration.
What
to
exactly
the-
do you think is going to happen? Yeah, and then in the domestic front, like in terms of migration and trans rights, he has also been very outspoken about banning women from men's sports and all of that. What exactly will you postulate that Trump can accomplish, right, in his second tenure as compared to the first?
I think one thing that Trump has going for him is that people actually believe his rhetoric.
Yeah.
I don't believe his rhetoric, but people believe his rhetoric.
Yeah.
So, and it's going to play positively for him in terms of geopolitics.
Yeah.
For example, I'm hearing reports that Ukraine and Russia are trying to, gain as much ground as they can before he comes into power. So they are kind of setting the mood for like possible talks because they feel like this guy is a crazy man.
Yeah.
So they believe him. So both of them are working fast to make sure that okay, I gain enough ground before he comes so that we
before
can
negotiations
meet
happen.
and negotiate.
Yeah.
And even Israel too is also like looking to clear as much as possible before the inauguration because they feel like he might stop them from doing anything else. And in terms of so that's a positive. If he's able to do that, that's a very good one.
But
Even
will he stop Israel? He's more like an Israeli fundamentalist as well.
Yeah,
He
but,
moved-
Israel,
like-
which I think under his administration, it was quite quiet in the Middle East.
because his
you're
rhetoric
right,
is that
you're
like he
right.
doesn't
Forget
want
to
anybody,
under-
he doesn't want any issues.
Yeah,
so he has been
yeah.
attacking the Biden administration for not doing enough
Yeah.
to like stop the issues.
So what about in China? What do you say?
In China, I think
with China, right?
he's still going to go because Biden actually continued Trump's, tariff wars. I think Trump is still going to do that because now they're even having much more things to fight about. Because China is now starting to become like very closer to the US than they were before. Now they are leading in EVs, they're leading in like production of batteries.
Yeah.
And now they even do, I think more recently they talked about like stopping germanium and two other major components of the electrical industry, like from coming to the US. The US doesn't have enough control over. So we're going to see more of those fights between those two countries. Yeah. And I think that that would probably determine how China and US relations will go.
Yeah. Then, Jay, what do you think?
For Donald Trump, his internal policies,
Yeah.
I think with his Elon Musk support especially,
Yeah.
the way Elon Musk is trying to push for government efficiency to make the government work better for the people, right? So they want to. I'm thinking he's going to work on cutting down government spending.
Yeah.
So as to because America is heading towards cliff right now.
Yeah.
Their foreign debt is so high.
$33 trillion there.
So high.
It's a lot.
And it's too much.
Confirmed.
I don't think they've ever run a trade surplus ever before. It's always really always in trade deficit, the budget deficits rather, not the trade. So I think he's going to work on that. He's going to cut a lot of unnecessary things, according to him.
Nice disclaimer.
According to him, move away from these left-wing policies of the Biden administration, where they say something, but then they are doing doing other things. And I also think that regarding immigration, it's also going to be much more stern about immigration. There will be a lot of stopping of the illegal migration patterns into America. There's been a lot of talks from people from Haiti moving in, Guatemala, from the Mexicans.
Yeah.
Even I think even the recent social media discourse now is even about the
H1B.
Indian
Yeah. Even that's legal migration.
this is even the legal migration aspect
Yeah.
now. The Indians encroachment into the coming into the American tech industry. So there will be a lot of I'm guessing now
Yeah.
projecting a bit of policies on that aspect. So
Yeah.
he wants to cut down on immigration, net immigration. Eventually, it's going to cut down.
Funny enough, like even Canada and UK are also
They are
cutting
also
down on
having-
legal migration as well.
because there is now a lot of growth of these right-wing politics.
Yeah,
People are
yeah.
angry that they are being replaced.
Yeah.
The great disparity of
So they are angry. The European/Western population, the white people, they are angry that they are being replaced by non-whites,
Migrants,
and those ones are bringing in their culture, they're importing their beliefs. They are not acclimatizing to what they find in their host country. They're going against. Some of them are running some weird politics. They're also bringing in more of their people, and they don't want that. They want to work. They want to, the host countries, the Europeans, they want to work. They want to feel that the government is for them.
Exactly.
Why is the government spending money more on the outside than inside? Look at the government's response to the tropical storm.
Yeah.
The recent hurricane storm that happened.
I think it was in North Carolina.
Yeah. What the government spent on emergencies efforts was way less than what they gave out in foreign aid. Doesn't make sense. Why would the government not? Your government should fight for you as a citizen. That's what the government is for.
Well,
it should be populist.
that's nuanced in the sense that like the foreign aid you're referring to is Ukraine and Israel.
Yeah.
Weapons are more expensive than emergency responses. So like what is more important is did the government do enough to respond? Because I feel like it was heavily
politicized. There's also the statistics that like the amount of foreign aid in the US is like 2% of the budget thereabouts. I have to confirm that, but it's very low. As compared to the people broadcast it as is one kind of massive expense. Like
because like it's normal for like political actors to want to champion like the government is spending on the wrong places. It's true. The US has made itself like that. I think I mentioned in one of my episodes. The US is the one that decided to be the world's police.
Yeah.
Nobody sent it. So like if the US doesn't want to do, they should tell everybody else and we'll be fine. We'll all move on.
So but when it comes to like geopolitics, like his relationship with China and with the wars going on in Ukraine and
in his first tenure, his relationship with China was more of double-faced. When he's at home, he criticizes China.
Yeah.
But when he goes on a foreign trip to China,
he
praises him. He does all this. He says all sorts. Praises him. When he comes back up, he increases tariffs. So his policy is I'm not even going to say this is exactly what he's going to say, but I know the overall effect will still be to protect the American industry. He wants to get the working Americans back. He wants to get the factory working. He wants to build America's manufacturing sector, which is very expensive to maintain because of the the dollar being the global currency. So we can't really manufacture a lot of things. You have to if you're going to manufacture anything in America, that's something very sophisticated, high-end. You can't do basic again because it's very expensive to do basic. You have to just export out the basic to countries like China. So you still need China. You fight your tariff wars, but you still need them eventually.
Because at the end of the day, they were the ones that decided to move manufacturing to China to save money.
Yeah. But that was the companies, not necessarily the government per se.
True.
But then, like when it comes to the wars, like especially with like the way Russia seems to be weakened now. Earlier on, during his campaign, it was like he was pushing some form of like anti-Ukraine sentiments or anti-Zelensky sentiments. He and some of the right-wing media commentators, right? They were like anti-Zelensky somewhat. So do you feel like, especially now that Russia is looking very weak, especially with Syria, they could not really defend Assad's government in Syria.
Russia looks weak.
Yeah.
Is losing some what do I call it, foreign partners.
Yeah, even he's bringing North Korea soldiers.
For instance, okay, fine. Maybe Russia's influence in the Syria civil war has weakened. The rebels have been supported by the Western governments, supported in quotes. They've been able to come to power. They've removed Bashir Assad, whose family has been there for decades.
Yeah.
But in African continent, Russia was able to come in after the French government was sent out from Niger Republic.
Yeah.
Russia has they've gained influence in that aspect.
But
Russia also, during the war, I think they used their wit to gain influence everywhere, around the country, around the world, giving out their wits in exchange for more influence and power. There's not really been a lot of, but regarding the Israeli-Palestinian war now, I think what Trump is going to do regarding that would be, he might still follow in line with the Biden regime. There's not really going to be change. Maybe you're going to be softer.
Do you really see him being softer or more radical?
Trump, technically, in terms of foreign influence, I don't really see him. He says a lot of things, but the policies don't really match up to what he says.
What he's saying,
Yeah, he says a lot.
He presents this strongman attitude, but the policies present a more balanced.
Approach.
Just like we said with
Yeah.
Ron DeSantis and him.
They don't really match up.
Yeah. All right. So also when it now comes down to let's bring it back down to like populism, right? So it seems like there's been a lot of criticism against populism, especially right-wing populism like Trump, Marine Le Pen, Meloni, and all those other guys in the West. But when you look at the way populism is being practiced, right-wing populism in Argentina with Javier Milei, it seems like it's working.
Yeah.
Right, in the sense that for like 25 years thereabout, they've been posting negative trade deficits, posting negative fiscal deficits as well. Right, yeah, they've been having fiscal deficits. But it now seems like at least within 2024, there was like a turnover in the sense that they started having trade surplus, started having like fiscal surplus as well, right? So would you say like his rhetoric or his ideology basically on bringing the chainsaw to cut down the systems is working?
Generally, it looks as if it's working. At least we are seeing the fruits.
Yeah.
When he first came, he said there was going to be a V growth. Things will get worse before it gets better. So when he came in, Argentina's inflation was more than 200 and something % annual growth.
Yeah.
And what the government used to do then was what they have, they spend more than what they have.
Yeah.
And what do they spend on? They spend on energy, they spend on transport, they spend on gas, they spend on water resources. They subsidize this thing a lot. Yeah. The average middle class or poor Argentina will pay pennies of their own currency to afford these things. You pay just imagine paying maybe 20 naira, 100 naira for electricity.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
If you look at it that way, because eventually it's this kind of thing that when you keep on paying for subsidies, stifles investments. People don't want government, private individuals who want to invest in those sectors.
Economies,
So when he came in, he said government is going to cut down on those subsidies. From paying maybe 2%, you're not going to pay 20% of your energy bills. You're going to pay 15-20% of your water resources bill. The Argentina poverty grew under him because of the high inflation caused by high prices. Yeah. But with high prices comes higher wages.
Yeah, the wages also grow.
So wages also grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with time, inflation has begun to slow down.
Yeah.
It's still high. It's still like annual rates technically still high, but month to month it's slowing down. In fact, the central government has even cut down their interest rates for the first time. I think a couple of months ago. So they had to cut down the interest rate because the inflation was coming down gradually. And his approval ratings are still
I think it's over
50%. So they are still high. So he still has a lot of people.
So
even though they are suffering.
But will you say that at least right-wing populism in this case seems to be effective, like working against the systems? Because like you said earlier, when he was campaigning, he was doing Ministry of Gender Diversity, Agora. Right, so but it was cutting off those things. So would you say like those, as Emmanuel was kind of against cutting off the systems too much, but would you say like at least in the case of Argentina, cutting off the systems kind of paid off?
one thing I'll say about Javier Milei is, as much as he spoke about those things, he hasn't made that the focus of his government. And I think that is to his credit. So now people just remember that, oh, he said this during his campaigning, but like, you don't really like associate it with him now. Now he's more focused on like improving the economy. So that's what is making to be the front banner of what his government is looking at, as Adeniji has mentioned, bring down inflation, cut down government spending on subsidies. So that's what is making the pillar of his government, and I support that. So if he had made maybe removing different, like something like maybe gender studies as the headline of his government, we'll probably be having a different conversation. But the fact that he made economics as the forefront is why I am very, very pleased with him.
Interesting. All right. Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. So, but then let's bring it back down to like African continent. So people say like in Africa, there's not really been that populist wave as you've seen in other parts of the world. Like in the Western government, there's a huge populist wave.
Yeah.
South America too, some of that, and then even in Asia too. I think with someone like Khan in Pakistan, he's in prison now. There's a lot of protests.
Yeah.
And the taking down of the Bangladeshi dictator.
Yes.
I can't remember her name. But yeah, she has been there for like almost a decade thereabout, and she was removed. So it seems like there's that populist, people-minded wave going on across the world. But in Africa, it seems like everything has been docile, except for like in Nigeria.
I don't think so.
Okay.
We had the Arab Spring in 2012, starting with Tunisia, then it was in Egypt.
Yeah.
I think Morocco too. So we've had the Arab Spring episode in Africa. So we've had.
But that's more like, technically North Africa. You can say that.
It's
but
I'm talking about sub-Saharan.
It was called the Arab Spring,
Spring.
not the African Spring.
Oh, right, okay.
Right. Yeah.
So you want to focus on like sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah, basically, you want to say that.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult for populist agenda to get to power in sub-Saharan Africa.
Very exactly.
Because of our very weak institution. The electoral system is not good. You can have, you have cases of rigging, cases of corruption, cases of ballot box snatching,
state
voter
capture.
suppression. So there's a lot of things. I know to run government in Africa, because there's this, you can't really separate the elites from the politicians. The politicians are the elites.
Yeah.
The politicians are the elites in a lot of African countries, especially in Nigeria. The politicians, they hold so much power.
Yeah.
If they want to run for elections, they can get the state's money and use it to run elections.
Yeah. Right.
Some of them may refund it back, but after that, it's gone. Money is gone. And you can't question them. Why? Because institutions are weak.
I think what you said even resonates. Like there was one allegation against PK in River State that they've been posting like the revenue.
Yes.
I think I'm not sure the exact figure, but a very low amount. And then when Fubara came in, the figure almost doubled. Yeah. So it's like, how is
Where
it that
did this money come
exactly
from?
within 1 year? It's not possible. So
I mean, allegedly, he
allegedly
used them for the elections.
Yeah.
And I think what Adeniji is saying is very instructive, because a Javier Milei kind of candidate, can he really win elections in Nigeria?
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to start with. Like, for example, now, so there's been like what some would call them as like a populist wave growing in Nigeria.
Yes.
And some would say that, okay, it's not really a populist, it's more part of like the elite. But like Peter Obi, basically, would you categorize him as like a populist political candidate, like in the cadre of like Donald Trump, Javier Milei, Marine Le Pen, and the likes? Or will you categorize him as someone that's like a part of the elites?
So I think definitely is a populist candidate, not maybe the likes of Donald Trump, but more closer to a Javier Milei.
Yeah.
Although without the rhetorics of Javier Milei. Because like we've mentioned some of the things that he said during his candidacy as for the presidency. Like he was trying to take us from consumption to production, and trying to cut down government spending because he felt like it was too much, and we all know it's too much.
Yeah.
We have a spending problem, and we've not tried to even start to address those issues.
Yeah.
We still buy Prados and Lexus for everybody that has any kind of post.
Yeah.
And so I think he's a populist candidate because like his message to the people is the elites are ripping you off, but I am going there to take power to bring it closer to you and make a better society that would favor you. So I think he's a populist candidate.
Okay, so but we also have to
But
factor
without
in
the right-wing rhetorics.
yeah. But we also have to factor in the fact that he's also like a former governor in Anambra State.
Yes.
He campaigned with one of the most notable elites,
Yes.
Atiku Abubakar,
In 2019.
as his vice president in PDP, one of the most elitist, you want to call it that, parties in the country. Right. So
it looks like
there's
part
that,
of the establishment.
yeah, it's like there's that juxtaposition, like can we really categorize him as a populist or as an elite?
I think
None
we
of
can,
that.
because even when he was governor in Anambra, like he was impeached. No, firstly, like he won the election, but somebody else was declared as the winner.
Yeah.
And then he had to now go and fight. So you're seeing that like he has been doing this fighting with the establishment thing even from when he was contesting as a governor. So the election was over, somebody else was announced as the governor.
Yeah.
And then later on he was announced as governor.
that's
Then
true.
he was impeached, then he came back. So he had plenty of this struggle with trying to like just be the governor of the state.
Yeah.
So I think that like he actually qualifies to be a populist candidate, even though he's like has become part of the elite, because now he frolics with them and he's in their parties and their weddings.
So, how you exactly categorize Peter Obi? You categorize him as a populist or a member of the elite?
He kind of fit the vibe, but it's not lost on me that he's from the establishment.
Yeah.
He has been there since when? 2007. He's been there. He's in bed with them. He was in Jonathan's government.
Yeah.
He was in he was a two-time governor of Anambra State, and his message was to move us from consumption to production, cut down government spending. Our government spending is very inefficient. He said every year we're buying products, every year we're buying chips everywhere. So we spend too much, and yet we still complain of not having enough money.
Yeah.
But in Nigeria, to solve the Nigerian problem, these candidates, all three of the major three, the LK candidate, the PDP and the APC, they came with a message that to solve our economic problem in this country is we need to cut down on the subsidies.
Yes.
We need to cut down on the subsidy, petrol subsidy, the foreign exchange subsidy,
Electricity subsidies.
electricity subsidy. They all had this idea. Actually, the tweets are still up.
Yes.
But if any of them had come into power, apart from the guy that is in there now, would they have done the same thing and dare the backlash?
So
just like Javier Milei did in Argentina.
So
Will the approval rating still be there?
He wouldn't be there.
Yeah. So but I also think like
His approval would have suffered a lot.
Nigerians suffered in the we are still suffering.
Oh, the suffering is
too much.
the difference between Nigeria's one is like, at least in this case, you're not thinking of him being corrupt or the money that you're trying to conserve, you're using it to settle political dissent.
So there's that question of like, oh, we are saving this money, but what are you using the money for?
Exactly.
So
They are seeing the result, like their economy is recovering from recession. So like,
and just even the optics of like, because for example, you were saying, oh, we are not going to pay this amount again, but then the National Assembly's all got 160 million worth of vehicles. So we're like, okay, so what was the whole point?
Yeah. So, but then, like also like when it comes to Peter Obi as well, there's also this blend in the sense that it's kind of necessary for whoever is in a Nigerian politician to still somewhat mingle with the political class.
Yeah, you have. Yeah.
So
you have to.
some people will say like, yeah, he just had to, mingle to a certain extent, certain degree, and they'll categorize him as like maybe not a full-blown populist, but like a lesser devil of some.
If we were to have a true populist, that's to be a complete outsider.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing any outsider that can come in and just ride a wave.
Yeah.
You have to surmount tribalism factor, a religious factor, poverty factor. There's a lot of
hurdles that
for you to scale.
Yeah.
If you are going to ride a populistic movement, a true populistic movement from the outside, and win an election in this country, and also, in a country such as ours, there's too much problem in too many ways. The problem is multifaceted. You can't have one single message and say, okay, this is what you want to do. yes, we want to do consumption, production to consumption. But Nigeria doesn't have a vibrant steel industry.
Yeah.
Our
Electricity.
we don't have electricity. So how will you be able to do that? We don't have electricity. We don't have we don't have steel. Maybe we have fertilizer. Fertilizer is out of the reach. We just recently achieved petrol energy sufficiency.
Yeah.
Our gas sector is not yet well developed. Transport sector is developing there,
Yeah.
railway
Not
and
up to
everything,
standard.
but it's not up to standard yet. So if you come in,
You have to address
people have
those
to
hurdles.
understand that it is going to take time.
Yes.
But do Nigerians have that patience?
I don't think we have a choice. Because now, like, we have a government here, and like, there's this, as you mentioned, we are suffering.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm seeing that, like, everybody is starting to say, like, we don't even have a choice.
Yeah, yeah.
What is the alternative?
Yeah.
For these other governments, where they are starting from is
Is it
much
better?
higher.
Is it higher
Much
mileage?
higher.
Yes.
They have much
stable
more
systems
stable
at
systems
least, yeah.
around that. Okay, the only issue was it has just been mismanaged. We don't have it at all.
Yeah.
We are just building
Yeah,
it.
starting
Alright, so-
afresh.
So the person we need right now may not even be a populistic person.
Okay.
What we need is someone with the agenda of we are building fundamentals.
yeah.
The fundamentals have to be right. So it's not really an us versus them. That will not be your main message. It can be your main message, but Nigeria's problem is not really an us versus them right now. Our problem is even them, they are also fighting hard to get more money, because when you steal as a politician, I'm not trying to make a case for them. You steal as a politician, the money is still going back to your people.
Yeah, yeah.
If not,
But it's a limited set
they're
of
not
people.
coming back.
So, but then, how then can we like break that electoral cycle in the sense that nowadays the major, or rather the major two parties that we have are like PDP
At the APC.
and APC, and there's that endemic system of perceived corruption, right? So, if you're not going to go with the populist approach, what other way is it possible to break that two-party system and like get someone efficient in?
I don't think we need to break the two-party system. The two-party system is not bad in itself. A lot of countries have the two-party system and it works. The US has two-party system. UK has basically a two-party. The other parties are just parties.
Yeah.
So we can have a two-party system that works. The problem is that like the opposition right now, PDP, is not even a strong opposition. So I would advocate personally for having a stronger PDP to counter the effect of the APC.
But wouldn't it like to have a stronger PDP? It means that you have like credible individuals going there.
Yes.
But what happens over time? We even said in the previous discussion.
Yes.
Most of these people who have graduated they studied overseas. Some of them they have like masters, all those things.
Yes.
They get into that government or that
Their
party
system
structure.
and they just
They end up
absorb
doing
everything.
exactly. They end up doing the exact same thing that the ones that even have that did as well. So won't you say like the system in those parties have like structured this sort of like systemic endemic failure that
Yes.
which is possible to like revamp those parties from within, or it's just best to
Create
create
new
a
ones.
new one that can embolden those
Those values.
Yeah,
An
values
idealistic
and
me will probably say, let's create a new party
yeah.
that would, advance the cause of human rights, that would have the interest of the people.
Yeah.
But like realistic me is like, is that really possible? And is it not better to just take over those parties?
Yeah, but then if you see like elements of it with like Labour Party.
Yes.
in the previous
Well, you
election.
can't say. You might say yes. Maybe Labour Party has, but Labour Party is more or less the same.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
They are no difference.
Yeah, I think
There's
you
a
saw
small
like
difference. There's a small difference. Fine.
yeah.
Fine. With the influence of Peter Obi, they came into power. Some of them they won a lot of seats in the House of Representatives.
Oh yeah.
Funny enough, they ended
Some
up
of them are
decamping back
They camping back to the
APC.
APC. So what was the point?
Yeah.
Not only that, when they raised their budgets, and then this car controversy where they all got they all bought cars and everything.
They didn't stand up in opposition.
Nobody came out to say, from the LP and said, we don't want the cars, or this is our supposed. You hardly hear about any LP representative in the House of Assembly and speaking out against these policies.
All right. So,
Because the underlying what's the word there? The underlying idea there is for them to just get power. They don't really have ideology in this country.
Yeah. So, but then we say that exactly. I want to address that.
Ideologies don't work.
You say they don't work, or we've not just had a party or an individual with a party that embodies those set of ideas that everyone around the country.
I'll say we don't have principles, focused, determined people that will say, okay, this is what I want to do, and I will not stray away from the path.
Yeah.
The Tinubu administration, there's small, just very small. It has that kind of discipline. Okay, I don't care about the public outcry. I'm going to
doing this, although it's somewhat like the negative.
The petrol subsidy, I don't care. And it's not even, they don't even come, they remove these things and they try to say, okay, the alternative is this, but the way it is managed, they didn't manage it well. Dollar subsidy, they said it's
typical
off.
Nigerian fashion.
Electricity subsidy, said it's off. Education subsidy, you say it's
take
off.
Loans.
You know, go and get loans, take loans instead.
Yeah, so let's not take it back to that ideology, because that's one thing that I think has been at my mind for some time, that maybe the missing link, right, in translating from what the people want to actually getting those people into power is a lack of political parties with core ideologies, right? So when you read like the manifesto of like the APC, the PDP, many of them, they may have like some ideologies that they say they value. Like APC tends to lean more to like socialist values.
Yeah, I was about to even mention that like APC is a
like,
socialist party.
Yeah, like feeding people or welfare and all of
children.
that. Yeah.
Giving
While
people
PDP tends to lean more to like
capitalist ideas.
Yeah, capitalist and exactly, and liberal Democrats kind of ideology. But that's just words on paper, right? In reality, they don't embody, and the politicians don't embody. That's why they cross capital.
Exactly. They say they do.
So do you think like we need newer parties that can embody some set of values that at least it can awaken the Nigerian consciousness that let us start working towards these principles, whether or not people may want it at all. At least we are creating that divide that people across the country can align with an ideology, whether you're Hausa, Igbo, or Yoruba. You align with that ideology, you vibe with it.
Common ground.
So, it can, kind of overcome the limitations of things like tribalism and religion.
Well, in my own honest opinion, for something like that to work, in Nigeria as it is, with the level of education that we have in the country, with the level of political literacy we have in the country, economic literacy, you have to look at your people also. Are your people intelligent enough? Generally, the average person, is he intelligent enough to understand these hard decisions? Is he intelligent enough to know that, okay, these are the steps to take? It's not possible. What can be done is more of breaking it into pockets.
Okay.
Let's have regional governments. If you have a regional government, you have a smaller, diverse opinions that you can easily manage. You also eliminate some of these barriers that you have to cause in terms of tribalism, in terms of religious. If you have say regional government now, you talk Southwest for instance, there may be some form of religious difference, but the tribalism disappears. So you can easily push your policies easily. If you have a northern bloc, tribalism disappears. The majority will rule, the populistic ideology will rule. And whatever you want to do, you are able to do it. But when you start bringing it over the Niger or above the Niger and bringing it down to the south, to the southeast, that's where the clashes come.
So, but then, I agree with you in the sense that maybe better off to like strengthen the regions and weaken the power in the center. But at the end of the day, you still need to elect a central leader, like a president.
It's a gradual process. It cannot be now. It cannot be now. Whatever it is, whatever.
I think another point that I would like to add.
It cannot be now. We can't get
so
it now.
Emmanuel, what do you think? Do you think like it's possible to create those ideological values that people can vote with and be compelled to move it above, some of the limitations occurring in the electoral system?
It's possible, but we need to also think about the fact that like you need a stronger educational system to do that, as he mentioned. So you can't start speaking about ideologies with people who have not even finished primary school. they've not even offended
But can't you dumb it down a bit? Like, pardon that language, but like, making it very simplistic. The way Trump does, there are some college-educated Americans. Many of the white population are college-educated. Not everyone goes to, not even the white education, the white population, but like generally in America, not everyone goes to like college.
Yeah, some
many of them,
high school.
Yeah, many of them, exactly, sorry, high school. Many of them finish with high school degrees and then go into the labor market and all of that. But you see his terming or his framing, make America great again, drain this one. It's something that you don't really need to be one kind of maximalist, intelligent economist to understand what he's trying to say.
Yeah, true. You can do all those breaking things down, like for example, translating what you're saying to like maybe Hausa, Fulani, Ibibio, Efik, so that people in rural communities understand you perfectly. Because some of them might not understand English. That is true. But if we need to build a core part of the country, you need to strengthen education. So I think one of the agendas would be like, we need stronger educational system. So if I were a politician, or if I was an ideologue that was trying to improve the political sensibilities of my countrymen, one of the things I will fight for is for stronger institutions. The educational system, the court system, and even the electoral process as a whole. Because I don't know why in 2024 we can't have elections and have results come out like smoothly, and then our laws are not even that streamlined where like people have elections and then 2 months after we're still in court fighting over what happened 2 months ago. So a stronger institution would be like, okay, every case must be finished before the inauguration. There's easy transmission and there's no one IREF or one something that crashed and then the results are not there. So we have great policies.
They uploaded all the results into the higher. I think just abandoned at some point.
So stronger institutions to say that like the electoral process works as it should. We shouldn't have a breakdown. If you need to copy other, like South Africa had their elections recently, and like before Monday, everybody knew what the results were. Ghana had elections. Although you can say, okay, it's a smaller country, but those principles, you can apply them here too. So if it was an ideologue, those are the things I will focus on.
All right. So, but can those things be done in concordance?
Together.
Like, it's not like a mutually exclusive.
No, as you said, like, it takes time. Like, I would say we need like 30 years to come to a point where we can actually,
have full
non-stop.
ideology.
That's
30 years.
Non-stop. Not that you start the reforms, and then the next
stop.
government comes in and then dismantles everything you've done, and then you have the next person has to start all over again. It can't work like that. An example is the success of Lagos. If you have a streamlined ideology, it will boom.
Very,
you can't have
stop, start.
I agree. All right, so sadly we have to tie it up now, and so much to be said. We couldn't say everything within this short period of time, but at least we managed to touch on some of those core issues and do our best to get as much deep understanding, right, and resolutions regarding them. So let us know your opinions, right? When it comes to populism, Trump, Milei, Peter Obi, what exactly are your opinions about these individuals and the philosophies or ideologies that they push? Are you in support or are you against? Are you for populism or are you against populism? And what exactly is populism to you? Right, we would like to hear from you in the comment section. So thank you for listening and do have a good time. Thank you. Bye.